Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Gregs and Galactic Gregs, bringing you a joint video about asteroids. It is the 14th of October, 21. Time on deck is 23,2900 hours Central Daylight Time. Now, because of processing time with YouTube, this will be posted sometime tomorrow. But I'm going to bring you a message about asteroids, new discoveries about asteroids in the Taurid Meteor Belts, and what that may mean for us. The general notion of the threat of potentially hazardous asteroids. But I'm also bringing you some hope, because there are people out there that are putting out stories claiming that we're going to be getting impacts from those asteroids and some others. And quite frankly, they're not based on diddle, to be very scientifically precise about it. So we're going to get into that. At the moment, we of all the identified asteroids, and all identified asteroids have an astronomical name as assigned by the International Astronomical Union, the IAU. These asteroids are tracked, known, and at this point, there is no known asteroid that threatens Earth in the next 100 years. So we're going to talk about that. And guys, I used to know Brian Marsden. Brian Marsden was the director of the Minor Planet Center, which was a subsidiary of the IAU. The IAU is based in France. The Minor Planet Center is part of the Smithsonian Institute, but they're actually based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. So let's get into that, and we'll talk about these objects. We'll talk about the threat of asteroids. There is a threat, but it's nothing that you need to be scared to death about or worry about immediately and imminently. And for those of you that follow, this book here, in Revelations, there is a lot of discussions about things that look like asteroid hits, and so maybe things are coming this way, but there's nothing identified as yet, contrary to some of the announcements that certain other channels make. And I'm going to show you how some of those other channels made predictions last year, at least one of them, that was absolutely wrong, and how I called it in advance, called the bluff on it, and I was right. So not to blow my horn, it's just that, people accuse me of fear porn on my Green Gregs channel. It's because I tell you things that you should be prepping for. But however, I do tell you, I try to give you a balanced notion about things, but I will also tell you things that you shouldn't be scared of. And I've done this before, and I'm going to do that here tonight, at least, well, immediately. We should be worried about asteroids, but there are things we can do about them too. So there's nothing to be scared of yet. It doesn't mean there's something out there that we haven't found. There's always something that sneaks up on us, especially the smaller asteroids that we haven't discovered yet, but we're out working hard to find these objects. So hang on your hat and let's go for a ride to talk about these things. And bear in mind that at least on my Green Gregs channel, I tell everybody it's a proposition. My channel to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And so we're going to be surviving and thriving here, and not being in the hive. And so no Borgin from my Galactic Gregs friends here. So subscribe to my channels, Green Gregs and Galactic Gregs. Bang the update notification bell and click all. If you're not subscribed to one channel, subscribe to the other. And guys, I do also have a special deal, because we do live in perilous times. There are a lot of potentials that could wreck our civilization. Our civilization is quite fragile. As many of you know, our atmosphere is mighty thin, but our civilization and our supply chains are even thinner, as we're discovered right now with supply chains unraveling around the world. And we're discovering supplies coming up short. I also tell you that the power grid is at great risk. I have chaired 2 power grid defense conferences. I also chaired an International Space Development Conference prior to that, and a couple of regional space conferences. And as many of you know, I have quite a background in rocketry. This is why I have got this Space Pioneer Award from the National Space Society, and have a rocket motor sitting next to me right here. This is a fuel brain from a hybrid rocket motor from my Catch Prize rocket. Some of you might know what that is if you know anything about the Space Frontier Foundation and the Catch Prize. And we were the only guys who made a flight attempt under those rules. And, and prior to that, we made the Guinness Book of World Records for a flight we've done. So Yeah, I know a little bit about space. I work space day and night actually for my day job, and I've done a lot of the advocacy in space. I've been one of the nation's premier space advocates for quite a while, until about the last 10 years. So but anyway, enough for all that. But with all the challenges in front of us, civil here domestically, internationally, tensions with China and Russia, it would be a good time. And where supply chains are going down, with prices going, this is one of the best times to prep and get ready for the future. So if you go to prepwithgreg.com, there's a special right now where you can get $100 off a 3-month supply of food that lasts 25 years. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 2,000 calories a day. This is the deal that'll make you a winner. So I would check that out, guys. And it's with My Patriot Supply, which is simply the best in the business because they have the widest selection of freeze-dried and other long-term storage food products where you can get gluten-free, meat eaters, vegan, or you can get number 10 cans, all kind of stuff, plus other prepping supplies. So if all you have to do is click their logo above on the top of that page. Go to prepwithgreg.com. All right, enough said about that. We're going to talk about these asteroids. I'm going to share with you a bunch of articles. We're just going to talk through them so you can see some of the aspects of what we're talking about here. Bing, bing. Okay, let me blow this up. This is a channel which a lot of you admire on the prepping side of the universe called Israeli News Live. And it's Stephen Ben-Nun and his wife put on this channel. It's got a large following. He's got 377,000 subscribers. And see, my views are a flat line compared to his. I get some puny on Green Greg's. Galactic Greg's is smaller, but not proportionally smaller. 44,800 views for me and over 1 million views for him. So he is a bigger channel. And he puts out a lot of prophetic type things. But sometimes he takes some liberties. And one of the videos I'm coming on here to take exception with is this asteroid update video. And I am taking exception to that. He's yes, he's quoting other channels here. But now, in all fairness, this channel he's quoting here, Mr. MBB333, actually did a fairly good summary of the Taurid asteroid belt. But Stephen Ben-Nun wanted to embellish upon that a little bit more than is scientifically justifiable. He makes claims of contacts with the secret space program and advanced intel therefrom. And I'll tell you what, here's why I feel comfortable in picking on that. Look at this. You see this video right here? This is a video I did in August the 13th of 2020. And I did this to rebuke an earlier video or series of videos that Stephen was doing last summer, in which he was claiming, he made the following claims. He said, by September of 2020, no one on Earth would be able to deny the asteroid belt, interstellar asteroid belt he was talking about. Was going to bring all these asteroids in, impacting on Earth. We were going to be getting impacted in the fall and winter of that year. And that no one would be able to deny the planet Nibiru. We were all going to see Nibiru very plainly. And, people just conveniently forget these things. And so I got out in advance of that. And with this video says Nibiru comes not this way. Now you'll have to watch this. This is on my Green Grace channel. You'll have to, well, those of you on Galactic Grace are probably laughing. Of course not. I know that. Because look, my space friends, they think this is hilarious. Because, and I explain it on this channel, on this video, why that's not a concern, why it absolutely wasn't the case, and why, thousands and thousands and thousands of amateur astronomers are out there that would have discovered what he was talking about if it had been the case. And no, these are not NASA. So many people think, oh, it's all NASA, everything's NASA. No, it's not. There's literally hundreds of thousands of amateur astronomers worldwide. I got on my Facebook channel 5,000 friends, and I swear probably at least 2,000 of them are astronomers. I have a lot of good astronomer friends that are professional astronomers. And like I said, I knew Brian Marsden, who was the head of the Minor Planet Center, which is a subsidiary of the IAU, and he was the head of that organization from 1978 to 2006. Now, this is in a period that I was especially active as a space activist. So I knew him. I also met Dr. Levy, who is, excuse me, I'm getting my mind. Dr. Hale, who was one of the discoverers of Hale-Bopp comet. So, and I've had good conversations with him a few times. So, you know, these are people that I've known, I've hung around. You see astronomers come up to my farmers market booth all the time, at least one in particular. So we'll go more into that. But guys, just listen to what I had to say here. But Nibiru comes not this way. All right, guys, I said this August of last year, over a year ago, okay? That is what Greg Allison's got to say. It's not going to be here in September. There are channels that are out there who say, well, we got inside sources, and you're going to know this by September. I'm going to put my neck on the line and say, nope, that ain't happening. You may have other things going on. Go back and see my top 5 risks for the end of 2020. There's plenty of things to be concerned about, but this is one that you shouldn't be losing your sleep over. Don't mean an asteroid won't hit us. No, don't mean that at all. It means that we don't have a planet or an identified debris field coming in at us in that near time. So there we go. Put my neck on the line, and my neck is still intact. So how is it that Stephen Benoon still can claim credibility to come on here and make videos like this? And all his contacts, originally back when he was doing it last summer, he was claiming he had contacts in the Pentagon and contacts in the intel community. Guys, he don't bring them on his channel. I brought you on my channel on Green Greg's the former head of Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program, the Strategic Defense Initiative Organization, Ambassador Hank Cooper. Yes, Ambassador Hank Cooper. I have brought you guys General Ken Krosniak. I bring you generals, ambassadors, national experts, and people from the intel community, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry. I have these contacts. I bring them on this channel. I don't hide them. This isn't some mystery behind the curtain kind of thing. So, and I've got the contacts. This is the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm here to tell you that we don't know of anything out there that's coming right at us right now. And if there were anything that big, as he was insinuating then, go to that video and watch it. I explain in great detail why and how it would be discovered. And the amateurs all over the world were on about it long before, months before he even started talking about this stuff. Now, there is indeed asteroids hidden in the Taurid meteor shower belts. And they can really pose a huge risk to Earth. And apparently some of the impacts on Earth and the moon have come from that source. So it's nothing to discount. But the way he plays it up is the sky's falling, it's falling immediately, and all this stuff's going to be hitting us, you know, again, this winter kind of thing. So I would say there's things to be worried about, but I wouldn't lose sleep over that. You know, there are other bigger things that are chomping on us. Not talking about them. One thing I'm more worried about is losing our power grid or our tensions with China, Russia, and North Korea. And I got some videos coming up next week and the week after on that, because I'll be interviewing Dr. Peter Vincent Pry and David Pine also. So these are things that you can watch national experts on these topics, at least on my Green Greg's channel. So let's get past this. Now, hey, I don't want to really beat on this guy here, Stephen Benoon. I think maybe he's really a good guy. I just think he gets a little excited. That's all. He gets a little excited. I don't know what his sources are, but guys, I got no faith in his sources because he really blew it last summer. And listen, he talks about these asteroids. He doesn't name a one of them. Supposedly they're going to hit us. He doesn't have an astronomical name that can assign to any one of them. And he also says, but you know, we've got technology in the secret space program that can avert these impacts and redirect them and prevent them. So maybe that will happen. So that's his get out of jail free card. When this don't happen, he'll claim that they had success diverting these asteroids. Okay, that's like the people who claim that they get abducted at night. They spend 20 years on Mars, and then they get by the secret space program, and they get regress aged back to the minute that from which they were abducted and put back in their bed. No, there's people that claim that, really. Maybe you believe them. Yeah, that's a little hard for me to swallow, okay? But, hey, I worked for the Strategic Defense Initiative Organization back in 1988. That's how I got that calendar, guys. Hank Cooper's program. So I'm not here to snow job you guys. I mean, you can check this stuff out. Check with the amateur astronomers. They're all over the world. They're all over the world. It's not all NASA. There's many organizations. I mean, people from many different faiths. There's Christian, there's Buddhist, there's Islamic, Hindu, atheist, every religion or no religion. There's astronomers in all these communities, and they're not all on one sheet, but they all agree that they're interested in what's out there and they're looking to find out. And I talk about the physics of that in this previous video. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Let's just go forward here and talk about what we do know. Now, excuse me, this is that British Daily Mail site, and they load up with ads. Unfortunately, sometimes they get good material, but the ads, they're killers. They kill the memory too when I'm around. So I'm going to kill this site as soon as I show it here. Dozens of near-Earth asteroids hidden in debris that produces a Taurid meteor shower formed from a breakup of a giant, they said 62-mile wide comet. Actually, that's the same size as the Bernard and Delhi Bernstein, and we'll go over that in a minute, comet. Well, actually, that comet's bigger, probably. The minimum size is this size. But they believe that they're, and this is not really new news. This has been studied and proposed from back in the 90s. And so, but they've been making some more recent finds about this. And so they've been extolling on this quite a bit lately. And that's part of what excited Stephen Bannon, I believe. And maybe some of his sources. Like I said, I'm not too keen on his sources. Guys, I'm plugged into this aerospace, astronomy, defense, intelligence community, military. I know these people. So, I bring them on my channel, guys, some of them. So unlike him, when's he ever bring these people on for an interview? I don't know. So then, anyway, here we go, guys. I'm going to also show you there's plenty of scientific papers on this. So yeah, this is kind of like the National Enquirer. So pardon me for showing this. But they're technically correct in this article. And they talk about this is astronomers in the university here in Medellin, Colombia, that made some discoveries. I mean, hey guys, they got huge observatories in the Andes Mountains. So so they make a lot of good discoveries down there in the Andes. Some of the best observatories in the world. I'm talking about this is talking about starting back in the 1980s. I said 90s. Popular astronomers William Napier and Victor Klebe, however he says his name, to suggest, back then they were suggesting a shared parent with Comet Enki. Because a lot of people thought Comet Enki, and no, this is not spelled like the Anunnaki Enki, okay? This is E-N-C-K-E, not E-N-K-I. But it's pronounced the same. So I know some of you people are going to say this is Enki and associate Enki with the devil and all that good happy stuff. Anunnaki and all that good happy stuff. And for those of you that don't know what Anunnaki is, that's the Sumerian gods, or at least that's what they thought. All right, some of these asteroids are more than a mile wide. In this debris field, okay, today we're seeing there's asteroids in there, some of them more than a mile wide. That would be catastrophic if they hit Earth. No kidding, that is true. And some that was thought that the 1908 Tunguska event was from one of these objects. It was thought that the object that hit Russia, the Chelyabinsk explosion, was one of these objects. And furthermore, and especially one of the biggest catastrophic events in the last 20,000 years, since this comet is believed to have broke up 20,000 years ago, would have been the strike on the Laurentide ice sheet that ended the megafauna, large animals in North America and Europe, and put an end to the Clovis culture that lived in North America, i.e. an entire people that lived from the eastern seaboard all the way out to Clovis, I guess, New Mexico, which had made spear points that were very similar to points found in France, not like the points that come over from Asia. So it might have been so the Paleo Indians might have actually been white, but they got entirely wiped out by this event. Wiped out, I mean extincted, just like the giant ground sloth and the short-nosed bear, cave bear, the Dyer's wolf, and many other megafauna creatures in North America, including the North American horses and camels. And fortunately, horses made it out of the Americas into Asia, but they originated in America. If they stayed here and not got it to Asia, they would have been extincted entirely, and we wouldn't have Tennessee walking horses. Okay, so they're talking about these studies here and the threats they pose. So yeah, indeed, these objects can pose a grave threat. We haven't identified one that's about to hit us. Okay, guys, I'm going to go in a lot more on this. Earth passes through part of the stream every year, appearing as shooting stars in the sky every October. Yeah, we're there. In the southern hemisphere, and November in the northern hemisphere. Comet Inky was first spotted in 1786. So, hang on, guys, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, that's true. But Comet Inky is not big enough to source all these things. That's where they figure, and also one of the other belts is. Now, I'll show you a Wikipedia article that's not up to date even. It's talking about 2 of the Taurid belts. There's actually 3. A new one's been discovered if they haven't taken credit for yet in there. I'm about to kill this article. It's got too much junk in it. It's hard to follow through here. Yeah, we're going to kill this article. What is the Taurid complex? Yeah, we'll go into that more in another article. I'm going to kill this, free up some memory. It's going to take it a minute for it to kill it, though. That's the downside. Gaining some memory back. Good. Just checking that out. Now we're going to go into more scientific papers. I thought there might be some pretty pictures in that article. Sometimes the glitzier stuff likes to show a lot of pictures, but this time it really wasn't up to par, even for Daily Mail. Like I said, it's actually a legitimate British newspaper, but I kind of think of it because it filled up so many goofy ads. I think of it being kind of like National Enquirer. Yeah, you get an ad or 2 from me, but not, it's not like, everywhere. Study of prior research suggests there is a swarm of large asteroids hidden in the Taurid complex. Okay, guys, this is phys.org, okay? Phys.org. This is a physics website. And here they're showing the Comet Inky's family and all these objects they believe to be in. Let's see if we can explain this out a little bit. No, that'll make it any bigger. I hate it when it just makes it clearer. You still can't read that little type. Oh well, so much for that. I could download it and probably blow it up, right? And so there's different groups here in this Inky. They said Comet Inky's family. Well, they're not all with Inky actually. I'll show you that when we go to the Taurid Meteor page in Wikipedia. And here they're talking about the same scientist from the University of, I can't pronounce that, University of Salento has found evidence of a large swarm of asteroids hidden in the Taurid complex. So once they had postulated, now they're finding them. Every year at the end of October, the event known as the Taurid Meteor Shower occurs. It's about to start. So heads up, it's coming, guys. And it might be interesting. We might get a Chilbinks or a 1908 event, but it's if you're rolling the dice, it's not all that likely, but it can happen. It can happen. In terms of a civilization in an event, it's possible, but not likely from this particular source. At least not now. Every year in October, let's see, it talks about the meteor showers. And hey, it's worth watching. It's beautiful meteor showers. I like the Linonoids a little better myself in November. I have seen some of the best meteors I've ever seen in the Linonoid shower. Huge bolides, one after another for hours. One night, particularly, I was out jogging at night back in the days when I used to jog before I messed my feet up. So just talking about go relatively close to the sun. And I'm talking about these claims that found a large swarm of asteroids hiding in that complex. Two of the asteroids have not been seen before. Right. So what that means is a bunch of them had been seen, named, and numbered. They discovered two that had not. But now they are named and numbered too, okay? Measurements of the two space rocks shown to be 200 and 300 meters across. Means the ones that are a mile got named and numbered. It don't mean there's not others in the debris field, but they found two that they named and numbered. Okay, guys, because all this stuff goes to the IAU catalog, and then Minor Planet Center actually for these smaller objects like this. So the data shows evidence that the large asteroids and Encke's comet and thus debris originated from a shared comet that both likely came into being approximately, all this stuff came into being from this comet about 20,000 years ago. They believe that comet broke up then. Researchers also write that the large asteroids could pose a threat to Earth, noting that the Tunguska event, that's the 1908 Siberian explosions, also called Tunguska event, has been linked to the Taurid complex, as has the disappearance of some early cultures during the Younger Dryas cultures. And I'm talking about the Clovis people in North America, and perhaps some European cultures too, particularly in Western Europe. Probably anybody that lived in Western Europe at that time, the original Cro-Magnon man was probably extincted, at least the ones in that area, whatever cultures they had. And if there had been some slip through surviving Neanderthal, which we believe got wiped out 20,000 years prior, and that would probably have been the finishing touch on them. You know, sometimes some creatures don't, you know, they disappear from the fossil record because their numbers still down, but don't mean they're entirely extinct. So this is a scientific article from the Oxford Academic talking about the Paleolithic extinctions, the ones we just mentioned, and the Taurid complex. So this is an entire paper that goes into great detail talking about that, talking about the potential impact on the Laurentide ice sheet. And I'm going to show you some stuff about the Carolina Bays that seems to support this too. Again, here is, this might be a little better rendition of where these objects are around the orbit. You know, it's not a perfectly circular orbit, so this is kind of an idealized rendition of it, but it's probably its angles right. So, right, high eccentricity near Earth asteroids selected and described in the text. Okay, here they are, guys. Like I said, they name them, they number them, they categorize them, they track them. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. I'm not kidding about that. They go out of their people, you know, discovery of an asteroid is a big thing. Everybody's trying to discover asteroids. So a whole lot of astronomers out there trying to find and discover asteroids. I have friends that do. In fact, there's an asteroid that's got the name HAL 5 in it. HAL 5, Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society. It's a space organization I formed back in 1983. And it's got its name on one of those asteroids by an astronomer who come and briefed us about his work in that area of discovering asteroids. Now, that's a main belt asteroid. The near Earth asteroid is a little harder to find. We're talking about nanodiamonds discovered. There's a lot of evidence here that points to a impact on Earth. It caused the Younger Dryas. And the ice age was like kind of ending. It was warming up, and suddenly it got really bitterly cold and dry after that, and dusty, and life just turned to you know, where you had life on North America, like you on the East Coast, for there's like several feet of sand and silt there with nothing in it, nothing. Like there was no life in that part of North America for some time. All right, this is another article talking about the same stuff right here. You'll find a bunch of these. There's a bunch of these articles out here. Inky meteor showers. They're citing a lot of the other people that have done work in this area. This is copywritten. So we're not actually opening this article, but we got to go into all that to do that. And let's come over here. Now, I told you I was going to tell you about the Carolina Bays. The Carolina Bays are some of the evidence that's cited for this. And if you don't know, in the Carolinas and other parts of this country, there's all these elliptical bays. And what you find is they're all lined up pretty much in the same direction. And it's, an ellipse has two foci and an axis between the foci. If you know, a circle has one foci in the center. An ellipse, they start separating the two separate foci. Now, if you're in a room that has a true elliptical ceiling, if you sit at one foci and somebody sits across, I did this in a hotel one time. I told this guy, hey, look, I said, go over there and sit in that couch. It was way across the room, like, 20, 30 feet, maybe 40 feet. And I sat on my side and we just talked to each other, had a normal conversation. People would walk by and we think we're each talking to ourselves, but we could hear what each other were saying. That's one of the, and some people taking advantage of that in the Capitol to listen in on conversations back in the days before we had all this mess. But the foci are great for focusing things like sound. But they also have this axes, and these axes is pointing in the same direction. And what you can find from that is they're traceable to impact points. This is what we found, guys. All these guys, oh, if I can open this further up. No, that won't click and open. There's all these bays here and all these bays out here, impact points, Carolina bays, but they're just splotches, basically, where something came out from the impact and just put a shower of debris that rained down, large debris over a long distance. And there may have been chunks of the Laurentine ice sheets that may have all just melted after impact. I don't know, maybe chunks of the impact ore, which would have been cometary in origin. So this was probably a chunk, a piece of that other comet. And also, mind you, they discovered a big impact in northern Greenland that dates back to the same time period, and a couple of other impacts on Earth. Comets break into many pieces, and even the sub pieces tend to break apart because they're basically flying rubble piles. Dirty snowballs is one analogy to them. Sometimes they got more to them than snow. So this is a paper that goes all into this, and it gives a lot of evidence. For this supposition that we had a large impactor on the Laurentine ice sheet that caused, and the date's right, the nanodiamonds, shock core, you find all this stuff you'd expect to find from a space impact at that point in time, except it didn't hit the ground, not directly. It hit the ice sheet, which was 2 miles thick at that point. And it was a comet that hit it. Most of it probably, a lot of it may have exploded in the atmosphere over that, but enough of it hit the ice sheet that it threw out ejecta all over the United States, all over North America. And so North America was probably baked and cooked and drowned and drenched all at the same time. So life would have been rough in North America. Not much survived. I mean, you see all this radius here? I mean, it wiped out everything from the East Coast down out toward New Mexico, California. I mean, there were, the megafauna lived in California too. So the entire North America got obliterated. Probably parts of Mexico, South America, who knows how far, but South America maintained some animals that were unique to them, but not really megafauna. So there's no megafauna in the Americas, and maybe this is why. The megafauna, the woolly rhinoceroses that lived in, let's say that way, that lived in Europe got wiped out. So a lot of people think that mastodons and all these things were wiped out by the indigenous people. They were probably mostly done in by this, although Wrangel Island, which is just north of Siberia, close to Alaska, actually, is believed to have had a small compact species of woolly mammoths up until maybe 400 years ago. So the woolly mammoth only recently completely died out. Some people are talking about resurrecting them from the Gen X. Oh, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of papers on this. Let's move on. Yikes. Leave this stuff that hit the tabs here. All right, the Taurids. This is Wikipedia talking about the Taurids. They're talking about the southern Taurids and the northern Taurids. This is 2 different belts in the Taurid Meteor fields. And it turns out there's a third one that's just been discovered. They haven't put in Wikipedia yet. This kind of Wikipedia is usually up to date, not to be confused with beta Taurids. daytime. Oh yeah, that's daytime meteors. No, there's another one. So they're talking about the ones you can see in there, beta Taurids. The Taurids are an annual meteor shower associated with the comet Enki. But now look here. The southern Taurids, they accredit that to Enki, but the northern Taurids, they accredit to this other object, 2004 TG, an eccentric asteroid classified as an Earth object, potentially hazardous asteroid of the Apollo group, which means it crosses Earth's orbit. First observed by Spacewatch survey on 8 October 2004. It may be a fragment of comet Enki, and it may be, or it may be a fragment of the parent. Either way, it's apparently a fragment of the parent comet, and these things break up. So appearances, they talk about these things, the bolides. So I'm not going to go all into that, but here's what you need to know. The southern Taurids, if you're in the southern hemisphere, they're occurring already from September the 10th to November the 20th. The northern Taurids start on October the 20th, which is real soon, and they go through December the 10th. So check them out. I mean, this is worth watching, guys. And you get some really good fireballs sometimes, some really good bolides. Most of the time, this cometary debris is stuff about the size of a speck of sand, and that makes a pretty good meteor. Something bigger, it could get interesting, right? So it's worth watching. Now here is something else that's hot. So imagine this. Just imagine that if you had been an indigenous human being on Earth 20,000 years ago when that comet broke up. Imagine a comet 62 miles wide in diameter. You know, it's like 1,000 times bigger than Comet Hale-Bopp, which hung in the sky when we were doing the Halo SO1 rocket that got me this Space Pioneer Award. So that comet was hanging in the sky. It's the best comet I ever saw in my life. I saw Comet Hyakutake too, but it just didn't have the brilliance. It was bigger and tail-wise, but it didn't have the brilliance of Hale-Bopp. Now, if this comet 20,000 years ago would have been, it would have blown your mind. Probably just filled the whole sky. I mean, there's talks. I used to read about comet. Oh shoot, what's the one that went through that? You know, everybody used to know that went through in 2010. Came back in the 80s. I'm getting brain lock right now. That the year of Mark Twain's birth and death was years of this comet. I'm getting brain lock right now, guys. Bear with me. But in 1910, you know, people were outside reading because Earth passed through its tail and it's such a big comet. The next time it came around, it just fizzled out. I had big hopes for seeing that one. And well, I'm getting brain lock, guys. It'll come to me as soon as I end this video. Just as soon as I shut it off. Oh, yeah, I can't believe I can't think of that right now. But anyway, so Halley's Comet. I got it. Yeah, Halley's Comet was hanging in the sky when the Norman invasion in 1066. People used to really fear comets. They were considered bad omens. And maybe it goes back to this comet from 20,000 years ago. That would have been a huge comet. It would have had a huge tail. It would have been a crazy bright. It would have been told about for eons after it passed through the solar system. I mean, that would have created all kinds of stories, and the debris that came out of it would have created lots of stories. And some of that debris hit Earth, and then maybe smaller pieces hit Earth repeatedly after that, like the Tunguska explosion. So yeah, people had a good reason to fear comets. I mean, you know, after something like that. But could you imagine seeing it? Could you imagine the spectacle, the sight to see? It would have been mind-boggling. It would have been quite a sight to watch. Absolutely, it is. Especially if you didn't live in an area close to an impact. But that would have had global consequences. It absolutely would have had. Well, it did. It had global consequences. Younger Dryas was a galactic, was a planetary climatic change that lasted what, 1,000 years. It was huge. It wasn't as big as the Chicxulub event, which wiped out the dinosaurs. Not nearly as big as that. But it was a major extinction, even though it's not counted as one of the 5 major extinctions. But it was quite an extinction event. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't rise up to that level or close to that category. But it don't. So there have been much worse extinctions. And we also had a very big comet that hit about 30 some odd million years ago in the Chesapeake Bay area. I don't know. North America's had a history of getting pummeled. Mexico. Laurentide ice sheet, the Chesapeake Bay. I don't know, guys, we might need to move out. But there's nothing posing immediate threats to us. Now, here's this comet. They're saying here it's roughly 150 kilometers. Well, basically, it's something like in diameter. Basically, it's something like 100 to 200 kilometers. Now, 100 would be 62 miles, like the one they're thinking about that broke up and caused Comet Enki and all the other Taurid Meteor complex, asteroids and meteors and meteorites and so forth. So here's some other objects. Here's the moon, Martian moon Phobos by comparison to this. Phobos is small, some other asteroids. This thing is huge. It is huge. And there's sensational headlines claiming this thing is coming toward Earth. Well, it's kind of sort of heading in this general direction, but it's never going to come inside the orbit of Saturn. So that's fear point. Now, if it broke up, the debris of it would follow the centroid of its center of mass. Don't mean that some pieces of that might not come closer to us, but because it's just so big and got so much material. But it still, most of it would follow the centroid of the center of mass. And since it's not coming that close to the sun or Jupiter, which tends to have a rough effect on comets and asteroids, I would think that it will leave us mostly intact, or at least not having a lot of stuff coming into the innermost rocky planet regions of the solar system. And I could be wrong with that, but I have no expectation of that. I'm thinking all this stuff will come by. You may never even be able to see this thing with your naked eye, but it's so big, maybe it will off-gas enough that we can see it. You know, it might be the blue Pachinko, right? We'll hope he talked about. Yeah, I do hope that we can see this. Now, if something like this came in the inner solar system, one, you would hope it wouldn't break up going around the sun. As if it did, you know, and especially if it was on a shorter period orbit, we could have a lot of trouble. Now, apparently this comet 20,000 years ago was probably an Oort cloud or copper belt object that got perturbed and came in the solar system. It might have got too close to Jupiter and had its orbit adjusted so that it became a shorter term orbit, kind of like Comet Enki. If you had a huge object, a lot of debris coming in a shorter term like that, yeah, you would have something to worry about, big time. Fortunately, this thing is going to go bye-bye, I hope. But that doesn't mean that something like this couldn't come along one day, because stuff coming out of the Oort cloud is so far out that the orbits are tens of thousands of years in the making. So it's just hard to know when something like that last passed. And we just don't have, and this is before we had history. So we don't know a lot of the stuff that's out there yet, what might come. You know, this is the notion of our solar system. A lot of people tell us, oh yeah, Comet Nibiru's on the other side of the sun. That's why we can't see it. Well, that goes all the way around the sun. Anything coming from way out, we'll see it eventually. I mean, the only way something can always be on the other side of the sun is if it's actually in Earth's orbit on the other side of the sun. And I'm not going to go on that today, but I did explain that in more detail in my previous video. That's why you're not going to get a big planet sneaking up on us. I mean, guys, we discovered this thing, and it's like 100 kilometers in diameter. It's way out. It's outside the solar system now, and 2031 or so will be inside, just outside the orbit of Saturn. Once a comet gets inside the orbit of Jupiter, everybody sees it, guys. So this stuff just isn't sneaking up on us like our good friend Stephen Manoon is led to think. But hey, he's not a scientist. He's not an engineer. So I can't blame him for misunderstanding that, because he don't have that kind of background. And maybe somebody's feeding him something, but he needs to watch who he's eating knowledge from. All right, Oort cloud. This is interesting to know, guys, because this is apparently the origins of this big comet. And maybe that other one ultimately came in from the Oort cloud. To give you an idea, this scale here is not linear. This is 1, that's 10, and that's 100. You see, every unit, it gets to be 10 times more. So it looks like the same on here. This way you show a lot of distance on a small page and still put stuff like this. I mean, if this was all linear, all the Earth and the planets would be a little bitty dot next to the sun, to give you some idea. And the dot would be so small you wouldn't even be able to see it for the sun. So 1 is 1 astronomical unit. It's the distance between Earth and the sun. That's an astronomical unit, about 93 million miles. And Venus is about a little more than 2 astronomical units from the sun, and Mercury is a little better than 1, okay? give you some comparison. But as you go out, so this is a logarithmic scale, and so this is 100 astronomical units, right at the edge. What's considered the edge of our solar system, except the Oort cloud does orbit the sun. Voyager 1 is right about here, about 100 astronomical units out. Heliopause, that's the kind of the edge of where our solar wind pushes out the galactic winds and other things. Terminator shock is back here. And then we got the Oort cloud right here. These are comets that more or less orbit the sun, but they go about halfway out to the nearest star. And again, remember, this looks like it's right up on the other star, but it's really not. This again is a chart which kind of makes these bigger distances look smaller. You get it all on one page. This is a logarithmic chart. The stars are way out there. Okay. The Oort cloud, though, does go about halfway to the other stars, the nearest star. It's Alpha Centauri. All right, so that kind of explains that. And so I'll show you some other diagrams of the Oort cloud to give you another idea of what it looks like. Here we go. This is the inner planets. This is the Kuiper belt, which is right here. This whole diagram is right here inside of this. This is believed to be the Oort cloud. There's lots of objects in this. There's a lot of things that we could mine, guys. That's the way to look at it, including the Kuiper belt. This is the orbit of Pluto here. This blue orbit. The red orbit is orbit of binary Kuiper belt object 1988 WW31. So this is showing Kuiper belt objects. Pluto. That's why a lot of people say Pluto is just a Kuiper belt object, because there's bigger ones out here in the Kuiper belt than Pluto. That's how Pluto got derated from being a planet to being a minor planet, or a planetoid, you might say. The Oort cloud, unlike all this stuff, which is in the plane of the ecliptic, the Oort cloud is more circular around the sun. There's been some recent articles that suggest that formation occurred because the sun once had another star as a partner, and that star apparently got ripped away and is now somewhere else in the galaxy. But they claim that's how you could wind up with a circular cloud, is if the Earth once had a partner, which it no longer has. So this is a remnant of the dynamics of having two stars, and that star would also have a Oort cloud around it, theoretically. So who knows where Earth's early partner went and the sun's early partner. So there you go. All right, I'm going to stop this share. I'm just going to chat a minute. Again, I don't mean to beat on Stephen Benoon. Like I said, he's not an astrophysicist. He's not an engineer, a space guy, an astronomer. He's just a guy that's, he's read some prophecy, he knows some things there, and he's thinking he's found the confirmation of it. And indeed, confirmation may be found and things may hit us. I could pull up I'll do it. Well, it's in the other video where I went to spaceweather.com. You can find a list of the stuff that's coming at us in the near future, and the asteroids. You can go to the NEO site at JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's based in Pasadena, California. They have a big site. We can go in and find out a lot about near Earth objects, asteroids, NEOs, whatever you want to call them, potentially hazardous asteroids. Like I said, there's some we're worried about. We're worried about Bennu. We're worried about Apophis. We just sent a probe to Bennu, and it's brought back materials, bringing back materials. Bennu is a big flying rubble pile. Apophis, it comes dangerously close to Earth, and a couple times here in the next few years. But we're now beginning to think it's not going to hit us. So we're pretty confident in that. I mean something else still won't hit us, guys. I mean, it's all probability. But the probability, just from the standpoint of probability alone, that something's going to hit us in the next few years is not great. Over the long term, it's a certainty. Eventually, things are going to hit us because they keep doing it. These bigger asteroid type events that tend to wipe out about everything, about every 30 million years, the big dials, the really huge dials, about every 250 million years, like the Permian extinction, which is bigger than the dinosaur extinction. But dinosaur extinction events, you might say they're 65 or 100 million years for those, but maybe more frequently. We think we've just really missed that one, that whatever it was that puts us on that cycle we just missed. And it looks like that cycle is about 30 million years, on the order of 30 million years. So we had the dinosaur we had the extinction, we had the impact in Chesapeake Bay, but we just missed that time frame, that 30 million year time frame. 25 to 30 million years is what it's believed to be, which is, I think, roughly equivalent to the Earth's bobbing, the sun bobbing up and down around the galactic plane, except for the Milky Way. The Milky Way is here, and the sun goes around it. As it bobs up and down, it goes through maybe a compression wave, maybe there's more density of other objects there that disturb the work clouds. I don't know. Approaching other stars might be more frequent because they're just a denser, they might have a higher density inside that plane of the ecliptic. But whatever drives that event has not hit us this time. So we lucked out, and maybe that's why we are here. But the, aside from being created, of course, but the biggest dials, about every 250 million years, happens to coincide with how long it takes the Earth and Sun and Earth to get all the way around the galaxy. And it's thought that there is a what's called a Sagittarius arm of a red dwarf galaxy that's kind of poking, that is colliding with our galaxy and will be absorbed by, it's kind of poking through this way against the plane. So maybe we're coming close to that. It's creating higher flux density of other objects that might perturb things out at the Oort cloud, which goes out halfway to the other stars anyway. So it may be something like that that causes the bigger dials, although Permian extinction is given over to the Siberian traps, which 250 million years ago, you had this huge volcanic thing in Siberia. Of course, that could have been precipitated by something hitting Earth. And it's thought that when something hits the Earth, one, you're going to poke a hole right there into the mantle, and you might get stuff up well in there. But the shock wave of that event will travel all the way around the Earth onto the other side and really break up the crust on the other side, and it can cause major volcanism there. Interestingly enough, the Deccan traps, if you had the Earth 65 million years ago, and you looked at the Chicxulub crater impact point in the Yucatan Peninsula, and you went all the way through the Earth from there, what would it, where you came out on the other side would have been India, about where India was, or the Deccan traps. Now, some people say the Deccan traps predated all of that. I really have to wonder about that, because it's highly interesting. But the effect that you would get would be a break up the crust on the other side. It would have caused lots of volcanism, and that volcanism happened to occur directly in the antipode of the Chicxulub impact. Strange, very, very, very strange. Unless it was a planned kill shot by somebody. Let's get rid of these dinosaurs. Yeah, if we put this coming in right on the other side of the Deccan traps, we'll get a 1-2 punch and that'll wipe them all out. They did that planning. So I don't know, guys. I'm just wild speculation there, just for fun. We do that sometimes here. We like to have a little fun. That, and again, that is just wild, crazy speculation, like a live action role playing session, an art session. What happened to cause the Deccan traps? Maybe we got a dating wrong. Maybe we misdated it. Maybe it originated from that impact. If not, it's highly curious that at the antipode on the other side of the Earth from the Deccan traps was the impact of that asteroid, comet, whatever it was. A lot of people these days think it was asteroid, but it might have been a piece of, could have been comet related, well, probably not related, because that other comet just broke up 20,000 years ago, believed to be. I don't know. We do know the Oort cloud, even the Kuiper belt, has some mighty large objects. So things could disturb them occasionally, increase the flux density of those objects coming through the inner solar system. And that may be what causes some of the larger dials, some larger cycles. And it's also interesting that the largest dial cycle coincides roughly the time scale of going around the galaxy. The other dial seems to have some correlation to our bobbing up and down through the galactic plane. Seems to. You know, these are speculative notions, hypotheses, not theories. Theories require a lot of rigor and proof to be a real theory. So they're hypotheses, okay? Something that we think is plausible, maybe. So, to do this, you know, if you can, you hold experiments. You got to have ways of isolating variables and testing one thing We're just one variable in isolation. It's hard to do that in the real world. So we look for evidence in the geological and astronomical records, and we look for things to compare things by. And so science gets a little murkier when you have to work outside of the laboratory to ascertain what the truth is. Okay, there's my big caveat to everything I just said. The big, ginormous caveat. The truth about science is it's murky. They say that science advances when the previous generation of scientists dies off, so the new ones can now come forth with the theories that they've been trying to put out there. They've been stepped down on for ages. You know, that's how we got quantum mechanics and all these different things. Which basically says God plays dice with the universe, but really and truly, I think he plays billiards. The billiards are the asteroids, the planets. You know, what's the cue ball? What's the 8-ball? Do we get racked up? Let's hope not. All right, guys. So there you are. There's a lot to ponder here, a lot to consider. Yeah, if an asteroid hit, say, the Pacific Ocean, it would cause enormous, even I know, don't have to be a ginormous asteroid. Hitting Pacific Ocean would cause ginormous tsunamis. It would totally destroy global shipping. Like you'd wipe out all the ports in the Pacific Ring. That would really mess things up. The Atlantic might be okay. If one hit the Atlantic, you know, that would cause a lot of trouble too. And we will see how fragile our web of commerce and industry is in our world. Our civilization itself is extremely fragile. I did another video on green graves talking about the fragility of our society, of our civilization, based on the 1950s treatise written by Mr. Reed called, really truly called A Pencil, with a proposition that you can check it out. Now, I got an old video on this. Go check it out on Galactic Green Gregs. How nobody on Earth, and back in the 1950s, knew how to build a number 2 pencil. Why it took cast of thousands. Imagine today with all our computerized automation. So yeah, this is the number 2 pencil. It's just the light was washing. Maybe you can see the 2 right there. Nobody on Earth knows how to build a number 2 pencil, even back in the 1950s. You may find that incredible to believe. Check that video out, or look up iPencil. Just Google iPencil. So there you go, guys. I know we've gone long here. I had a lot to say, but the bottom line is this: asteroids are something to be concerned about, especially in the long term. We can deal with the asteroids though. Instead of letting them hit us, let's mine them. Let's make use of them. Let's turn them, those swords into plowshares. There's a lot we can build in the sky, and a lot of minerals we could bring to Earth potentially with some of these near Earth asteroids. Now, main belt stuff is probably too far out to consider for now. But near Earth asteroids, oh yeah, we just discovered one that's believed to be rich in platinum group metals, gold, and so forth. It's thought to have a value of trillions of dollars. I'll be in maybe another video on Galactic Gregs about that. I did one on asteroid Psyche maybe a year ago, and how its value is crazy. And I think I called that video, "Who Wants to Be a Trillionaire?" Jeff Bezos, are you listening? You know, why don't continue to compete with Musk and try to sue them forever? Put your energies into something productive. Go out and mine the sky. Anyway, read Dr. John Lewis's books from the University of Arizona about mining the sky. I got tons of his books back in this bookshelf. All right, guys. So there's my Galactic Gregs, Green Gregs joint video on space as opportunity and a threat, and how it pertains to prepping. How does it pertain to prepping? Well, those smaller objects could cause global disruptions and supply chains worse than the ones we're seeing now. So yeah, it could happen. It could happen anytime. So it's a good reason to prep. Also, you could get changes in weather with smaller impacts, kind of like a nuclear winter that could prevail for years on. If you got a big impact like the Warming ice sheet, you're in for trouble. You better know how to grow stuff for a long time underground. You might be talking about 1,000 years. But hopefully, we have nothing like that on the radar that we know of in our lifetimes that will be that powerful, fortunately. That even the stuff in here talking about things that would hit, the good book, that would take out a third of the ships. That may not be as big as the Laurentide impact, guys. That may not be. If it's in the water, as it indicates, then it might not have as big a climatic effects, but it still impact trade. So think about that. You just got to get ready, guys. Prep. If you've never prepped before, think about it today. That's why I talk about the storing food up, but you also need to grow your own food. And so check my links to my True Leaf Market, where you can get great heirloom seeds, the kind of seeds that if you grow the plant and plant the seeds, you get the same plant back. Hybrid seeds, you get something else, not as good. And like your big juicy tomatoes, unfortunately, are hybrid, and so are a lot of other things, including a lot of squash these days, GMO. It's non-GMO, non-hybrid heirlooms products. That's what you really want for growing in your garden. So you can save the seeds and get the same thing back year after year after year. But gardening is an art. So you better store up some stuff because it's going to take a while for you to get going all your food you need. You know how to do that? See my video with Jason Ramers. We talk about how on a 1/10 of an acre or less than 1/10 of an acre you can feed a family of 4. A good balanced diet. We talked about that on that video. So you got to look at my Green Race channel for that kind of stuff, guys. To know more about comets and asteroids, life in space, rocketry, you find out on Galactic Greg's. I'll be covering more of that on Galactic Greg's. I hope I'll get back and make more Galactic Greg's videos in the near future. I've just been extremely busy lately, and so that channel suffered, unfortunately. All right, guys. I thank everybody for watching. Just stay tuned. Don't be scared to death. You get somebody like Stephen Banana out there who's telling you the asteroid's about to drop on your head, the sky's falling. Well, it could fall, but the chances are, probably not today. Probably not today. Get a good night's sleep. Don't worry about it that much. There's plenty of other things to be more concerned with, but you should prep. And also, hey, support space development. So then go out there and mine this stuff. There's a lot of guys criticizing Jeff Bezos and all these guys sending these tourists up in space. Has done it. Oh, well, focus on problems on Earth. Don't do that. That is focusing on problems on Earth because they might be the guys who save life on Earth, because all this stuff, investment in space architecture, starts to build infrastructure to make going into space cheaper, which will make it more available to us to mine these objects and make good use of them instead of having to risk them coming in and getting us, or give us the ability to divert them more readily than we have today. Right now, they say our best thing is to nuke them. That's turning a rifle shot into a shotgun blast. May not work out very well at all. It might make it worse. So the solution today is a horrible solution. Not only that, it'd be the radioactive debris coming in on us. Yikes. I don't like that notion at all. We need to find ways to keep it from hitting us, not just turning a rifle shot into a shotgun blast coming at us. A radioactive shotgun blast at that. We can do better than that, but we need space infrastructure to do that. And that's why these little hops, with Captain Kirk, matter. That's why they're good. That's why they should happen. And those of you that are out there throwing stones at it, no way. You don't know what you're talking about. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have an awesome good night.